allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are on to the fourth committee meeting. It's been, I think, about 5 or 6 weeks since the public workshop. So we took the comments from the public workshop, incorporated them into the plan. So today we're going to approve the workshop summary notes, as long as you guys don't have any comments. I'll review the project schedule going forward to the end of the year. The big bulk of today's meeting will just be going through, leafing through the current draft plan that's in front of you, mostly focusing on the framework section. And then we'll schedule the next meeting, which will be a open house and first public meeting. It's going to be public hearing, It's going to be all one meeting where we'll present now this plan to the public, get their feedback again. At the same meeting, you as a committee will hold a public hearing to refer this plan on the town board to be adopted. So today we're hoping to schedule that and the location, which I think we'll talk about when we get there. And then we'll go on to the next steps, which again is kind of a review of what we'll be doing between now and the next meeting. And then also, I changed it, it's a little different. Do you want the latest one?
Yes, that'd be nice.
Let's see where I put that. Here you go. It's slightly different. I added some more.
Thank you.
And then at the end, we'll go on to the next steps, which is basically what we'll be working on in the next couple weeks, and then I'll review the project schedule one more time. So in terms of the project public workshop summary notes, those were sent out a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys reviewed them, if you had any comments on them. They went through all the comments that were on the workshop boards. As long as everything looked okay, we can approve those minutes. All right. So that sounds approved.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't have the formal minutes from syndication for the week this evening.
I think I do have a copy of those. Does anybody need a copy of those minutes?
And we will take the lead on this. Of course, never see these minutes.
I have a copy if anybody wants.
I have a few minutes.
Okay. Here.
And you had emailed those out, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I did see that second copy.
Anybody else need them? Got two on
This I can see. You're confusing.
Oh, so those are the
Summary
public
notes,
workshop.
not
Yes.
minutes.
Or summary notes, yeah.
That's true.
All right. So then, in terms of the project schedule, for the next couple weeks, we'll be working on the draft plan edits. So the plan that you have in front of you and sent out earlier this week, that'll be over the next 2 weeks. Following that, our next meeting will be the open house or public hearing, hopefully at the end of October, potentially early November. I think it would be good to shoot for the end of October for that, if possible. And then after that meeting, I'll start the seeker process, the state environmental quality review, and that will be prepared for the town board. And then it'll also go to the county. The plan will be referred to the county for review. They just review it and then give their input if there's anything else we want to include in the plan. We're not required to put anything they request to have in the plan, but it's a good perspective to look at what they recommend. And then from there, we will have, hopefully, the public hearing number 2 with the town board, and then at that meeting, the town board would pass a resolution to adopt the plan. And we're shooting for December for that. So I think we can do it. I think it'll work. So in terms of the draft comprehensive plan, Just as a reminder, this is a combination of phase 1 that we did in 2019, the needs and community assessment, which had a community profile in there, a public outreach section, and then went into the vision and goals of the town. And so for this, we can just get right into this now for the draft plan edits. And just let me know so you guys said you took notes, just yell them out to me as we go through. In terms of the back of this page, a couple of things we're actually going to add to this is you as a committee will be listed on the back of this page, as well as the town board, as people who participated in the development of the plan. Then who was funded by, and the Barton and Judas, and the sustainable planning and design. That's the sub-consultant that's actually putting this plan together, or authoring it. In terms of the table of contents, one thing I wanted to add to this, so we got the introduction, the inventory and analysis, public outreach, guiding framework. One thing I do want to add is just a call out to the vision statement. And throughout the plan, I kind of put in red some edits that I made from Sustainable Planning and Design, who sent it over to me. So then when I send it back to her, she'll know, because they're in red, the edits that I'm making. And then also the edits you give me, I'll do the same thing. So when I send it back to her, she can see where all the revisions are.
Just going to add vision statement to that section 4.
Correct. Yeah, right under guiding framework, because it goes from vision and then economic development in these 4 categories.
Will there be a section 5 or the 6?
I didn't even realize that. Good question. All right, so that's supposed to be section 5. All right. I wonder what it says on that page if it's section 6 at the end. So we have a list of all the tables and figures, and
That's probably going to change the page types as well, getting a vision statement, right?
yeah, and it's automatic. And she used Word, Microsoft Word, to do this, so it's all just a function that it automatically updates. I was trying to see if that first figure is on there, but it's not in the Durham figure. So then it goes into the introduction. So a couple edits on the introduction is we're just going to call out that it was funded by DOS for the second phase, Hudson River Valley Greenway in the first phase. I'm also going to put a blurb in there about kind of the gap from 2019 to 2024, and just mention that the town was pursuing funding to fund the plan update. So we're going to add that into the introduction. Another big request I have of you guys or someone would be pictures. Does anybody have pictures they can send me of just parks?
Do you want historic pictures, up-to-date pictures, a combination of both?
I would rather have up-to-date pictures. I kind of made a list of just some areas or community events. That would be great if there's a picture from that.
If you can give me a copy of that list, I'll make that happen.
Okay. Because we want to try to use our own pictures, so we, aren't using other people's pictures. So community events, even pictures of the park. We have a couple pictures of the park, but I'd rather have newer ones. Hopefully on a nice day. I was planning on coming down here earlier to try to get pictures, but it was just not a good day to do that. Pictures of the hamlet centers, small businesses, farms, the apple orchards, any kind of scenic pictures, historic sites, anything like that, community events, just so we can kind of disperse them throughout the plan, and especially in the projects and objectives section. We want to have some sort of pictures to add. So that's a big kind of task. I'll ask Cindy too. Even if your kids have pictures that you want to send me. But it makes the plan look a lot nicer, and it's better if it comes from us than trying to source all these. And we want newer pictures anyways. So
But you also said, I thought you also said historic pictures.
Well, pictures of the historic sites in town. We do have some historic pictures in here that we can keep, but mean, if there's other ones that you think are cool, that would be good in the plan. Then
That's the typo there.
yes, and I got the Moderna or the Hamlin and Pfizer Moderna one. Yeah, my boss actually got that on his review. And we're also going to fix all those, or update the captions. I don't really like the font and the color, and it kind of bleeds together. So then we go into the methodology. Basically, all the public outreach that happened, all the committee meetings that we went through. And last I checked, there were 7 people on the committee. We originally had 9, but I counted 7.
I think we have.
Is it 9?
I will send you an update.
Okay. It's been hard to keep track, so okay, I just highlighted that.
You know, some folks have a hard time getting here because of work problems or other obligations, but I think do we have.
Yeah, I couldn't find the list you gave. You gave me a list earlier in the year, but okay, so I just got to keep an eye on that. That might be 9. So we have the project schedule. Then we go into community background. So these next couple sections, I'd kind of rather have you guys just send me your comments over the next week or two on these sections, especially the section 1, 2, and 3, basically the inventory analysis, the public outreach section. I'll kind of go through these, but if you have any questions, stop me. So it just goes into mostly the history.
I might be able to give you a little bit more history than the Clinton down, because when we got the house listed on the National Register, we had a historian
Yeah,
do some history, so it talks about the cabins, the area going to the back.
that would be awesome. If yeah, we can fit that into this community background section. So
Might the historian have more details?
I think this might have been pulled from the website originally in 2019, so it could even be updated by the historian. So we got the community background section. I didn't have much comments on these sections. So getting into the inventory analysis, I was going to update this map title to be the town of Plattekill, its hamlet centers, and the regional context. Because we kind of talk about hamlet centers later in the plan. So this gives the regional context of the town, and then we just kind of dive pretty deep into the community profile.
On back to the regional context.
Yes.
There's 2 other hamlets that are within that community that are kind of historic. Is there value in adding those as well?
Yeah, I mean, we could. Would you want them as that yellow highlight, or would you rather just have a label?
So the intention of the highlight is to look at those as they've been developed, but as they would be developed. So probably like the New Hurley area would be added to that.
Okay.
The Flint is basically New Hurley as well, but a little bit spread out.
Okay.
But there is agricultural land that's down there, residential. There is no real commercial base down there, but there is some open land around that area.
So you said New Hurley and Flint?
Yeah, it's called the Flint, but it's New Hurley area.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of called out as the main intersections of the hamlets.
And there is a crossroads right there.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, we can add that in. But these come up later in the plan for areas where like walkability is more common or small businesses.
Our building is another area that we have.
Yeah, that one's on there.
That's sort of depicted up there.
Yeah.
That's also poised about that, I believe.
So that's the regional context map. We go into demographic data, which we updated for 2020 with the decennial data. We kind of updated the graphics since 2019. I don't know if you guys ever saw the 2019 plan, but I think it looks a lot better since 5 years ago, at least the graphics and everything, depicting the population, age. ethnicity. I didn't have any comments on these pages. Housing units, housing characteristics, employment characteristics. We're at, was it grade 10, 11. Did anything jump out to you guys in these pages? No? Okay. The only one I did kind of have an issue with that I was going to have. The person who's working on it, her name's Allison, have Allison look at was this industry composition section. I actually found this kind of confusing, the percentage change. I think the important part of this section is just highlighting where this is all where people work in Plattekill, the industries they work in. So I think what's important to highlight is just what are the top industries people work in now, and how has that changed from 2017 to now. I mean, she shows it on here, like if you see information, that's gone from 23 people to 75, so that's a 226% increase. I don't know if I like these stats.
And it's called information. I mean, what does that mean? Is that information technology?
That's all I can think is like working from home. That's the only thing I can think of that could have caused it.
Okay.
But I mean, if there's one person working in this industry in 2017 and 8 in 2022, it's an 800% increase. So I don't know if I like the way these percentages are kind of framed on here.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing is just to look at, education and services is still the number one industry. That's changed the least. But then some other ones like professional, scientific, and management has dropped from like the 4th to the 2nd. Manufacturing has gone up from like 7th in 2017 to 3rd in 2022.
So, I mean, one thing to do would be to rank them in order.
Yes. Yeah, so that's what I kind of wrote on here what the biggest ones are now and how they changed. So I think that's the only thing that kind of jumped out to me in this section was the industry. It was a little confusing for me reading it. I mean, I understood what she was trying to say, but I think
something needs to be clarified with exactly what these industries are.
Yeah, agreed.
Like public administration, is that government or
right? Okay, that's a good note also.
Information.
All right, so that section we're going to revise. I didn't have anything on travel to work, but that has changed. They do note, the working from home's increased. That is quite a big increase from 135 to 406. These are estimates also. COVID, yeah, that was the big. It's an estimate, based on surveys that the census does. The Census Bureau.
Do we have any more recent data in this category?
No, so they're weird like that. Like 2022 is the most recent data. So then in 2025, 2023 data will be what the most recent is. They're always like 2 years behind.
It's just 2022 and still a little COVID, so this is going to skew it.
Yeah, they're probably pulling their hair out at the Census Bureau. Next, we go into land use. We threw the land use map in there. Also,
speaking of land use, one of the things I noticed about this draft comprehensive plan, I've seen comprehensive plans from other municipalities where the land use section will incorporate some specific zone districts or zone changes. I noticed we're not doing that, which is, it's not a critical comment, but I just, it was an observation I made that we're not doing that.
Yeah. Well, we do have specific recommendations about zoning districts in the actions. One thing we could do, and we could kind of build it off of this hamlet map, is a future land use map which is how it kind of influences the zoning code update. So like having these as hamlet centers kind of defines, are these areas all similar? Would you want these hamlets to have the same types of regulations? And also kind of, I did highlight the business corridor here because I know there's an overlay district for that. So it sounds like there's an intention for certain types of businesses here. And Dean and I were talking about kind of a town center area, and then probably the rest being agricultural or single family, two family housing. We could do a pretty simple future land use map, which kind of helps, it helps influence the zoning code update, which is the next section, is the zoning section. Is that what you mean, something like that, like a future land use map?
No, it was just the absence of anything specific. For instance, I mean, I noticed in our code we have a hamlet zoning district.
Yeah.
Like some municipalities have what they call a hamlet center.
Yeah.
You know, where they permit mixed use. You know, ground floor retail, upstairs residential. So I just noticed we didn't have that, whereas like some other municipalities where they'll implement a comprehensive plan in order to basically codify some new zoning districts. I worked with the town of Round and Village of New Square, and they created all new zoning districts as part of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. Which is
Well, yeah, I mean, we can't create those with the comprehensive plan, but we can recommend them for the zoning code update. But I agree with, it seems like the light business and the general business, I think that's what the two are, right? Or the brown and the red. The business and the light business. Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. The brown, yeah, so the brown, this business, BD40, those almost seem like the hamlet zones, but they're not called that. And from my perspective, I think it would be a good idea to have some sort of hamlet center district to kind of define an area where, okay, there could be small businesses here, there could be sidewalks here, something a little bit more like identity of an intersection, better streetscapes.
right. As
And
opposed to we have the hamlet residential, we call it.
And it's funny because the hamlet residential is just pretty residential. It's just a version of a residential zoning district. I like that it's called hamlet, but I think that could be something. I mean, that's something that would come out of the zoning code update. Would be updating the names of these zoning districts. That could be an action that we could still put in as kind of an influence in the zoning code update. Would be, think about the names of these zoning districts so they're more clear when you read them. It's easier to understand what they are. So if one is Hamlet Center, to me I know that means, okay, this is a rural area that has a small business district. So that could be something we could...
Yeah, that's probably a good way to approach it here. Basically let the comprehensive plan inform the code in the future.
Yeah.
When a better decision can be made.
Yeah, and we're being more clear about it, and that would fit well into the Hamlet goal section. Would be identifying, but again, I think another thing we have to do with this plan, and kind of I was talking about it with somebody else I worked with, was I think we have to have a good definition of what the Hamlet Center is, and that's separate from the rest of the hamlet. Because I think there's sometimes a confusion of, I live in that hamlet, I don't want that in my hamlet, but the focus is actually at the Hamlet Center area, where there's a little bit of businesses, and it's different than the Hamlet residential area. So I think that's something we can clarify.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
I have another thing.
Okay. No, I'm looking at you. You.
I have another thing that might be worth clarifying. The title of Section 2, Inventory and Analysis,
Yeah.
I think analysis somewhat implies that maybe there are suggestions in there as well, and I think this is more of a, this is what the town has in it now. It's statistics and, current or relatively current statistics and data.
Yeah. So we want to just call it a community profile?
Existing community profile, something like that. So it doesn't imply that there's any sort of changes being suggested in that section.
Okay, I like that. Because we're not going to suggest any changes in that section. It's too late.
And then that answered your question about why that wasn't in there.
But, and actually, and what you brought up, I was thinking about, and I was going to suggest putting that in the guiding framework section. I think that's where it would fit, kind of as an introduction to how people understand the different areas of the town and the different characteristics. So, great. Okay. So we can change that to community profile. Where are we now? We are on the zoning section. And again, this just goes into the zoning districts, how many acres they are, what percentage of the town it makes up. We have the zoning map on the next page. And then this was an area you called out, right? We named a park. Was this the one where we named a park? It's not a park. Oh, Forest Park. Yeah. So this goes into the different organizations and community groups that are in the town. So if you have any other comments on that or anything else, any other organizations that you think we missed, let me know.
Dalton is a BLT.
Let's see here.
And then we're going to remove Forest Park, right?
Yep.
Hemlock Ridge is a state forest.
So you have
Is it a
Hemlock, so we have to change that.
So it's Hemlock State.
Yeah, and Wallkill in the first paragraph is W-A-L-L.
Oh, spell it right in one spot and wrong in the other.
Now, New York City North, Newburgh KOA, that's actually a campground.
Okay. So we call it holiday. Should it just be KOA campground?
Yeah, you can just put KOA. I don't know when that holiday is in there, because that's registered. If you came across on the internet or something.
I'm not sure. This was from the phase one of the phase one plan. Yeah. So this would be great though if you guys just read through it. Send me all the corrections, misspellings over the next week. So the next section goes into all the public outreach from phase one to present that we've conducted. So we discussed the initial town hall meeting back in 2019. And again, we'll want to add images to these sections, this section as well. So we did a visioning workshop in 2019, a community survey at that point. And then I had some edits on that community survey also. But the 2024 community survey and then the public workshop that we had last month. I didn't take any pictures during the public workshop because I was busy. Hopefully somebody took a picture. We usually like to include those in here too. I forgot.
Does any of your does any of your summaries or of that workshop reflect the attitudes towards the warehouse and
There are. I only put in the summary what was on the meeting boards, and there were people who commented that they didn't want the warehouse on the meeting boards.
So, just as a favor, I put a fair amount of energy, as did other people in this town,
Yeah.
hundreds, right, in responding to that survey. And as you know, the top answer was no warehouse, please.
Yeah.
And I would like that memorialized somehow, because otherwise it's left behind as you march forward.
Okay, I can include it in the survey summary
Thank you.
as part of the presentation section. All right, let's see here. Hold on a second. Here's
And this may be premature, but as long as I've spoken, I'll continue. As you're doing zoning, you probably know that the Institute of Traffic Engineers has broken down the warehouse. It used to be, code whatever warehouse. They've now broken it down to reflect that there is a kind of different warehouse, which is basically an inland port or a distribution center. And it would be good if people would consider whether they, maybe that belongs in the heavier business district. You might
Okay.
be refining warehouse. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Maybe we can talk after. That might be something specific I have to add somewhere. I'm not sure.
I mean, I think one of the things we're talking about is having a definition of what warehouse means in our code. Is that part of what you're saying?
I think it is, or that warehouse is no longer just a place where people store stuff long term, right? That's
Like
one kind of warehouse. Right, or cooler, or things like that we've had.
Yeah.
But that there is this different thing. I'll send you an article about it if you like.
Okay.
I won't take more time here.
That's
My
fine.
anticipation is that the next portion, if we're done with the comprehensive plan, we're waiting for approval or disapproval on the next grant process.
Yeah.
That we will be going into zoning. And is that going to follow the same format that we're doing right now?
Yes.
Outreach? So
There'll be
that would be a perfect opportunity to bring those concerns up at that time.
Yep, there'll be it's the same thing, a committee, and there'll be multiple public workshops and a survey again. So I mean, in our recommendations, we do have a section that tries to specify the sizes, the definitions of warehouse and manufacturing, and the sizes of warehouses and
And
manufacturing.
that's where I think that would be appropriate to do that.
Yep. In terms of the vision statement, so this is the same vision statement from 2019. If you guys have any, we can update it, not too much, but slightly, if there's anything you want to make sure is included in there. But it's the same one. Again, actually, now that I look at it, I don't really like the font on that either. Because the letters are too close together. So yeah, we're on page 26. So it's pretty straightforward. Do you want me to read it, or should we just...
So it's pretty, what you said, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So the next page goes over what basically the definitions of goal, objective, and actions, how we came to the four categories: the economic development, hamlets, infrastructure, and community character. So this would be, I think, a good section where we can add in almost a version maybe of future land use maps and just kind of discuss the hamlet centers versus the hamlet areas. I think it would be good to have a picture of the town too, and probably a picture of the park. That gets brought up during this section. You can call out town hall. Any other assets in the town, we can actually just have a town map right at the beginning of this section. So in terms of the economic development goal, here I'll split these, sorry. have some comments on here. I have some formatting issues with this that I'm going to work out with Allison. We also want to have images in this section too, so this would be a good section to have the small business images. I didn't have any changes from the public workshop to this meeting and any comments regarding economic development. Actually, okay, I have one topic. Somebody brought up Airbnb, and we had not discussed that I don't think we discussed that during any of our committee meetings. There's not a section on short-term rentals. A lot of towns do have some sort of regulation regarding short-term rentals. You guys have Airbnbs in your town? I don't know if you know that.
We do, and we are in the process of identifying those.
Okay. Would that be under the support, the growth of new local businesses? Do we want to have an action that suggests having this in our code, something regarding short-term rentals? Or just investigating?
I have to think about that because
Okay.
that may be premature. I don't want to put something in there that's not going to happen. I do know that they're going to be identified. They have to be identified. All the communities will do it.
Yeah, so
What about just, consideration of short-term rentals?
yeah,
It's pretty good. Yeah.
just to make sure that it does get brought up. I mean, it's a really hot topic. You don't even have to do anything, but just to have it in
that
there.
way that you said that.
Yeah.
And then again, zoning, that would definitely be an issue addressed.
Because it's interesting in a lot of areas, Airbnb is a very bad thing because they've taken up all the housing and then you have all this empty housing stock. Here, in some cases, it's a good thing. People add additional short-term rentals to their property, and so they're able to make some more money. It's
Yeah.
a little bit different dynamic in some cases than the Airbnb problem in other
Yeah.
areas.
Usually, yeah, go ahead.
On that same line of thinking, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, are running across the country, right? And that is a huge topic because the inability to afford to live anywhere, right? So taxes are making it nearly impossible, and any type of affordable housing in particularly metropolitan areas, they're allowing all kinds of ADU usage that was never considered before. And now that's spreading into the suburbs, and it's certainly going to be something every community is going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
Right?
So the town actually has a section. I looked that up.
Yeah.
The town does have a section on ADUs. Is it sufficient, or is it something?
I think that's something that we're always looking at. We're talking about affordable housing and housing smart. So that's kind of like hitting the ground for running a lot of communities and imposing restrictions and requirements, but they're also being more lenient, like you said, because of the affordability.
Yeah.
We have to. It's the world we live in. So it is something that's taking place, but
Do we want to add it along with that consider?
and then again, we'll address it when we get to zoning also and bring that up again. But
Yeah, and that could fit under the E1, the expand housing options. I think Airbnb fits more under the E3. I guess it's kind of it's more business related. But this is the section also that addresses the update the zoning code to delineate sizes of industrial and manufacturing uses in designated districts to balance economic growth and community satisfaction. So that's sort of our how we're trying to address the future warehouse situations. Also, just update the zoning code to specify the types and locations of businesses allowed in town. Kind of general, but also influences the zoning code.
what you're saying right there, what we're referring to is we're saying zoning, and we're going to follow up. Maybe there should be a section that specifically talks about refreshing and updating and keeping that up to date with zoning code. That should be in our master plan, something that we're looking at. We all know it's a living document, but if we put that in there and we headline that, that's something that we can follow.
And that can be sort of part of that whole future land, that kind of future land use-ish map.
I mean, maybe being, part of the goals, objectives, and actions. just to, keep reconsidering the zoning code
Revisit the
to
zoning code.
implement the provisions in state.
I want to mention this section you have here, E1.2, code enforcement. I guess you might have picked that up from the last, we had the public outreach session.
Yes.
I wrote something about code enforcement on one of the boards because of my experience in the fire service in Rockland County. What I was referring to about code enforcement was not so much derelict properties, but illegal occupancy. So just that someone converts their one or two family residence into a multifamily. That was, so I don't know if
That fit in here.
so I don't know if that,
Let me think.
really, it's not really part of the economic development goals, so it doesn't really fit here with that, with what I had in mind as far as code enforcement.
So it's like
occupancy.
illegally converting houses from 1 to 2 family.
Yes, that
Yeah.
one or
Or 2 to 6.
more, yeah.
Co-opting property into a commercial enterprise.
Yeah. Well, then that creates a whole other issue of non-conforming.
Along those lines, something I don't know whether we talked about before, it's my understanding that although we have noise restrictions, quiet hours, in general, they're not applied to construction. Is there a way, you can tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong, but is that something we want to think about too?
I am not 100% sure, but I think in our codes it says specifically that start time for constructions or other projects have to begin after a certain time of day and have to stop by a certain time of day as well. I believe so, and I'm not 100% sure. I have to look, but I will tell you that's something that's a great wealth of information, and actually would be great for this as well. Is look under New York State E-codes, and you can break it right down to the town.
Oh yeah, no, I've been on there.
Yeah, and you can see exactly what's there and what's not, and it's just a wealth of information. It really is.
Does it have to do with construction permits? Is it part of the permit they get? Oh, maybe they didn't get a permit.
I got neighbors out there with heavy machinery,
Yeah.
grinding up asphalt in the ground at 11 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I mean, you'd have to call somebody if you want.
No, we've done that. But
Okay.
no, that's not where I was going with it. I was actually told that we didn't have those.
Oh,
we didn't have
that
rules
wasn't-
around construction, that we had general rules, but that not around construction. But perhaps that could be wrong.
Specifically, you're talking.
Yeah.
There usually are decibel, level rules in the code, but the thing
Yeah,
is
no,
they
those
can
are
be
hard to enforce. That's not what I was
enforced.
going. I was just talking about hours.
Hours, okay. Okay.
Because to me, that goes with the rural
Yeah.
nature
that's
of the
true.
town. It's actually quiet sometimes.
Well, I will try to put something together, though. I think that would be a good action. Sorry for Joe about the conversion of properties, because then they come non-conforming uses, then it can be an issue selling that or buying those. If that is an issue, I didn't know that was an issue here.
Well, I don't know about this town, but we've had a lot of problems, like I said, in the fire service, where you go to the attic and you find out it's converted to an apartment for a basement with no windows, converted to an apartment.
Okay.
One of my neighbors did that too.
So,
But just because it's not a problem yet, I think it's like the warehouse wasn't a problem yet, right? But now it is. So I think we're better off trying to be more protective
Okay.
to the extent that kind of thing makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of how to. I'll think of how to turn that into some sort of an action that either the town, I don't know if the fire or codes would have to.
Well, part of the push, part of the reason why ADU is getting so much traction is the two-way street. So we're now, and I'm speaking for any municipality or city, village, hamlet, we're now being more open to entertaining the conversion of the attic, the basement, the space over the garage,
Gotcha.
an attachment just to your home. In the West, in California, there are businesses in Arizona exploding where they build a mini house like a modular, come into the planning board and get approval and then attach it to what's there. So the point is that in exchange for that, what the municipality gets is oversight and control.
Right.
So instead of learning that a 2-family is now a 5-family when 3 kids die in a basement because there's no way out of a window,
Okay. Yeah.
instead they bring their plan here and the planning board says, yeah, that fits under our ADU expanded code. And now there's a safety aspect to it, right? Also, it allows the assessor to pick up the conversion. Now there's a tax part of it too, right? They're getting rent, but they're also now paying more taxes to help evenly distribute that. So there's a lot of wins that come out of that initial action, right? And it goes to things like that, and it goes to even the economics of it, right? So you're now actually assessing it, collecting taxes. That allows you to maybe pay for another building inspector or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the whole point is it brings it out into the open.
Yeah.
Because the economic pressures now are so substantial everywhere that people are just doing really desperate measures to figure out a way to collect another $800 a month from somebody living in a hole, living in an attic, living over a garage.
Right.
And it's just not good for any part of the process. Right?
So, okay, that helps a lot. So they kind of somehow have to word it in a way where people don't feel afraid, I guess, or like they're going to be penalized for potentially bringing it forward that they've converted.
Well, the desperate people are going to feel like they're penalized, but at least they'll still have a marketable title if they do it the right way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, what you might see also along that lines is Rupco, not here yet, but different cities, they have grants now where they're helping people so they could do those accessory units. And it won't be long before it's down at this end. So you're probably going to see more of it coming.
Okay. This is good. All right.
Because that was in the paper the last couple of days.
All right. I'll have to see if other municipalities are doing something like this to address that issue. To try not to penalize them, but it really is a
I
safety.
know that a lot of communities are doing that.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I don't know how we fit it into,
Yeah.
but it's a sign of the times. A lot of communities are. And that's what they're coming around to what they're calling houses.
All right. Okay. We can fit that in. I think that's really good. All right. I think that's anything else for economic development. The next one are Hamlicals. So kind of what we were talking about before. We might want to convert this to Hamlet Center goals. So it's more focused on those main intersections. So stabilize and strengthen the Hamlet centers of Modena, Plattekill, Ardonia, Clintondale. Ensure safe and affordable housing with walkable access to parks, schools, commercial establishments, and public transportation. And we can update these, revitalize Plattekill's Hamlet centers through targeted investments.
Do we want to add the other hamlets that
Oh, yeah.
you mentioned before?
Do you want us to have West Hurley?
It's called New Hurley.
New Hurley. And Flint. And then, another kind of topic of conversation. This was written on a board last month, was the sewer and water districts again. So I put it in red on there because it's been added back since our last plan. I tried to word it in a way which is just on an as-needed basis kind of a thing. Support a feasibility study for potential water or sewer districts to assess benefits for small business and residents, ensuring it aligns with the town's rural character and is pursued only if deemed in the best interest of the community. Again, it's not holding the town to having to do these feasibility studies.
Can you state that the feasibility is by the project sponsor?
Oh, yeah. By a project sponsor.
Do you want to consider instead of support?
Yeah, I mean, that puts a different spin on it for the town, so it's not like they have to do it, or you have to do it. And we can also incorporate costs.
I think the toughest thing is what we discussed earlier in the meetings is that our town is so diverse geographically and it's spread out so far that how do you invest in one area and not in the other? And we have a lot of residential areas that are in the town that are actually squeezed. We have pre-existing non-conforming lots that geographically are on hillsides, and those folks deserve just as much attention as somebody down Main Street where we could expand business. And we're limited to the amount of lots that are in our business districts per se that are it's quite a mix of residential, open space, older buildings, and I understand that we do need something like that in those areas as well. But I think there's a lot of other diverse areas that really could stand the attention of water and sewer, if not equal, more than a commercial district.
Yeah, it was funny at the meeting. Both. I understand both sides. One guy I was talking to, he was very adamant about having one first economic development, and then, but at the same time, it's what protects you from overdevelopment.
Exactly.
So I'm in between. That's why I put it back on here was how you feel about it.
I think if we leave it open for the study to do feasibility studies,
Yeah.
I don't think we should ever restrict something like that. I think information is key to everything. Education, information. But to make it part of the goal to do those studies,
Yeah.
I think the availability should be there and the encouragement should be there, but the obligation should probably be.
It would have to go through a vote too. I mean, it would have to go through the same democratic process, but.
Yeah, they would be
If we're
responsible
gonna
to pay for it.
do something like, consider these feasibility studies, and I know this is in the Hamlet Center goals section. If we're saying it's for small businesses and residents, do we want to say within and without the Hamlet Center? So that expands it?
Yeah. We could add that too, so it's not just limiting it to a specific area.
And then it's just, we're going to do something to think about. It's for people inside the Hamlet Centers, outside the Hamlet Centers, has to be in the best interest of the community,
Yeah.
not fully defining community, and in line with our rural character.
Okay.
Just that the word best interest, I'd like to be a little more specific, maybe like in the economic interest of the community. So that way it's not putting an unfair burden on the community for some potential sewer facility.
Or the best / economical
Something.
combination.
It could be environmental too.
Absolutely.
If you leave any adjectives out, you actually have more authority, don't you?
True.
Just
You're less
less
specific.
Yeah, I mean, I think that
You can do whatever you want.
very non-specific now.
You could just say in the interest. You could even just get rid of the word best and just say in the interest of the community. And out of the community. And out of the.
Well, but community is not defined, so
Correct.
do we mean the entire Plattekill community? Do we mean the local community where the water and sewer is going to be put? Do we mean the Hamlet community? But I think it's
I think
very
that's
vague.
good, yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. It's like the founding fathers, we leave it up to whoever the next people are to interpret it. So we had under the improve access to parks, tools, and libraries, develop parks and trails that locate areas for you. This got misspelled. Locating areas for new parks, expansion of existing parks, and development of new trails. There's no sort of trail plan the town has, right? Or any kind of intention of
Trail plan as far as
future
parks or...
just future trails throughout the town, like potential trails in the town.
We have one that we just developed, and there is some talk of possibly another one, but right now there's nothing in stone. No.
I mean, if there, so there's no map or anything like that.
No, not yet.
All right. Well, I mean, so just let you know, if there was a map of some sort of potential areas for new trails, we could put it in here. That could help for grant applications if you ever want to get funding for a trail, for DOT or through parks. Just to throw that out there. So if you have like a makeshift map you want to draw up, I could throw it in here. It's up to you. I mean, we have it in there, so that's good for an application.
I'm going to make a note of that, and I will consider that.
People didn't really like H3.2 at the public workshop. I think that had the most red dots, which is focus new development near public transportation stops. There's 2 public transportation stops in the town.
Weren't some of the comments about we don't have public transportation?
Yes, it was confusing because it was like, this doesn't go to New York City, so I guess that's considered public transportation, but it does go to like the other major like New Paltz or other areas around. I think it's a good idea, but it did have some red dots on it. Maybe people didn't understand what it actually means.
How many people were there with those dots?
I counted 15. It felt like more because then there was also committee members there and a DOS representative. I actually wasn't in control of the dots. Cindy started handing the dots out, so I don't even know how many dots each person got. Usually it's supposed to be 5 per person.
I'm just suggesting it's a small number of people who were very heavily weighed position on this project.
The comments would indicate I don't think they even knew there was public transportation stops in the town, and I think it was a misunderstanding of what they thought public transportation stops were, because they said which one was that? It was Hamlet. Traffic problems already. What transportation stops? There are bus stops which do not provide transportation to work areas such as New York City, and then it also just says keep it rural.
When the comment was new development, is that both residential and commercial development, or residential and industrial, all kinds of development, or was it being restricted?
Our initial, the spots are kind of I think they are one is, I think, one of the Hamlet centers. So the idea would be residential and small businesses.
I mean, the keep it rural comment, I take to mean we don't really want new development, which is something I've heard people say.
Yeah.
So that could just be, it has nothing to do with where we're focusing it, but we
It's
don't
just in
want
general.
new development, it's just general.
Okay.
And then focusing it is, I think, saying that if we're going to have new development, let's try to focus it in these areas as opposed to having it all over the place.
Right. I mean, it's actually pretty good that you guys have public transportation stops in your town, potentially for people who might need if people need assistance, like physical disability assistance. A lot of people who help those people, some people don't have public transportation to get to those people. So I think that it's kind of like a looking ahead of, if there were to be a center or like a senior center or something like that in this area, that would be good because then people who work there would have public transportation to be able to get to work. That's kind of how I picture public transportation places in rural areas. It's kind of an opportunity for people who are going to help people in the town from outside. It's pretty unique that you guys do have. I I think, public transportation stops out here. And also make it to work.
Maybe one of the issues with this, the word focus, because we're saying focus it here as opposed to keep it here and limit it being elsewhere.
Right. Well, I think it's good to highlight the public transportation stops in the plan. As
No issue
opportunities.
with that.
Yeah, as like an area of an opportunity would be where a public transportation stop is. So I think that's the intention of this action. So to me, it logically makes sense. This action, focusing development towards public transportation stops.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I'm really
Clarifying.
No, I'm thinking about the comments were made while we had red dots.
Yeah.
And maybe what people were taking issue with, also taking account of more than 15 people.
Okay, well, it wasn't an issue on the survey, so we can, I guess, I don't think it's that big of an issue. I just wanted to mention that was the one that I think that had the most red dots, but it might have just been a misunderstanding. So, the next section is infrastructure. Again, the two main things I pulled from this are, we need pictures. Especially in the number one, we could definitely insert pictures of the park. And then in red, it's a new one. It's I-2.3. I thought this was a good idea. Somebody at the workshop brought up having some sort of natural resource inventory to identify critical environmental assets, guide future land use decisions, support conservation efforts, and promote sustainable development, reducing long-term maintenance costs while preserving Plattekill's natural resources and ecological health. I think it's a good thing to include.
I believe that's very good.
I can't remember that. I think she said she was an ecologist, so she had a few comments, so I kind of tried to put it all into this one action. Other than that, the rest of them didn't really have any new actions or even revisions to the actions. A lot of them were just questions, most of the comments. Yeah, I mean, with the library, there was a lot of comments in the library, but I think we have a pretty good action there because, again, they're separate, right? So,
I think last time we had a meeting, or maybe at the public meeting, there was discussion about the county initiative for renewable energy sources and also how the county helps implement that. We're predominantly talking about solar.
Yeah.
We want to have something in here about.
So we do. Is it in this section? I mean, so under the...
1Q2.
Yeah, so there's one... Yeah, so one... Or I21 and I22. In terms of the composting program...
No, I meant more
the next one. Support
with
tax rebates for owners to install solar on existing buildings and require new construction to contain
so in
solar.
I2.30, we're talking about our natural resources, inventory, and there's lots of proposals that the governor is trying to get solar generation facilities created all over the place. And Ulster County has an initiative around this. So I think the town is going to have an initiative around it at some point to support the county initiative, blah, blah, blah. But do we want to think about how we're doing that and how we might like to implement that? Because right now I think that there's relatively free reign. And I don't know if that's necessarily consistent with the rural nature of the town or with conserving our natural resources or creating an inventory. Is it just something we want the town to think about?
So, I mean, yeah, I think there was like a county representative here or something like that the last time. how that would fit into our plan as an action. I mean, we could kind of do a similar action as the, like a collaborative action with the county on it. Would that be enough or no? Collaborate to make sure the town is.
I think we should be considering our natural resources
Yeah.
and the extent at which we, like, so one, for example, has, we can only have 10% of a piece of property have solar panels on it, so if you have a huge solar installation, it's only a portion of the property. Other towns are implementing these things as well, and do we want to consider something like that when we're thinking about keep it rural and conducting an inventory of our natural resources, how we want to move forward with that?
Okay, so I now understand. So to have an action more related to just updating the solar code in a way that keeps the town rural, something along those lines.
That is consistent with the vision for the town, right?
Yeah. I don't know the solar code.
Actually, I like what you just said.
Yeah.
In the vision of the town, because if you word it wrong, it almost sounds like you were trying to enforce a code and draw a line. And if we're saying in the visions of the town, that's what this is. This is a vision of
Right.
where we want the town to go, where we would like to see it go.
Yeah, I just think this is something the town should be thinking about and not waiting.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking something that he said earlier, like you said in relation with the county. Do we want to put that in that we're working in line with the county? The county comes out with opportunities all the time, and whether it's in their comprehensive plan or not, they're always actively sending different things out. So I think saying that it's in the vision of the town, the best interest in the vision of the town. I think it kind of covers that.
So something along the lines of making sure the solar code is implemented in a way that is in line with the town's vision. Something like that. Does that make sense? Does that?
I don't know necessarily if we should use that word.
Oh, okay. Maybe we can just leave that out. Make sure the solar code is in line.
Consider updating the solar code.
Yeah.
Stays
Consistent, yeah.
current or
So
something.
that it's consistent with the town's vision goals.
So consider updating the solar code in a way that is in line with.
There's different ways to look at solar. Would you rather see every house or every third house on the block have panels on the roof, or would you rather see an open piece of land be turned into a solar farm? I've seen a lot of solar installations that don't really make any sense, especially on the architecture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the flip side, you see a lot of solar farms that take up a lot of space.
I mean, solar generation facilities, they're not really a farm.
Yeah,
Well, so I was just driving through, I went on a motorcycle trip last week when I was driving through Vermont, and I was paying attention to this, and I saw a number of solar generation facilities in like the 2-acre size, 3-acre size, and looking at that, that's, it fits in the field with the trees, and you still retain the rural
and they
character.
put them on next to highways.
Well, sure. I mean, that's another thing to do, and also to put them on property that's already been used. If you have an abandoned mall or an abandoned property, or you already have a degraded piece of property because it's been asphalted over, there's lots of things that you can do to place them. But seeing, these smaller facilities compared to hundreds of acres is also different than ugly panels that look bad on historic houses.
Yeah.
I'm with
A
you.
recent one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, I think this is a good
We have one more.
addition.
I always laugh when I see north-facing solar.
Oh yeah. Just getting lost.
They shouldn't be put on them up.
Well, the installers are unscrupulous in their sales tactics.
Yes. We have
Oh.
a hand up.
Yes, I know you said before about trails and you mark it out. Now, we've had a problem with Ulster County. Can we put in our master plan areas like the Hartel, like the water on Sunset Road, that cannot be developed where the aquifer is? Because that's one of the problems that we keep on getting every so many years. There might be 20 years in between. I might be dead by the time they come to this other one. But they brought it, 30 years ago? And they brought it back again. But if we designate, would we have a better chance having it in our code that nothing can go in this area and so many feet from, like the swamp area and over, because our water goes to Orange County, goes to the Hudson River. But if we put it in our plan that cannot be developed, can you do that in this master plan to protect the residents and other towns?
So I don't know how locally this works, but usually if there's an aquifer, there's additional.
Yeah, let me just explain a little bit what he's talking about. Is we were cited for a countywide landfill, and obviously Garchester and Sunlands and Plattekill was a study that was done that there was two parcels that were proposed for a countywide landfill. One was a pre-existing landfill that actually is an active Superfund site. The EPA watches that every day, regulates it, and it's quite a large, well, I'd say quite a large tract of land. It's over 100 acres, but the intention was for the county to come in and take over several parcels around and develop. That was one of the primary spots. The next spot was about almost due south, 2.5 miles, another area that was actually basically the headwaters where Black Creek was. It's an estuary of the Hudson River. And within, I would say, 500 yards or less is the Quasiac Creek, which actually flows south and it goes into the reservoir in the town of Newburgh and then supplies the city of Newburgh, many different communities along the way. And what Willie is talking about is if we can integrate somehow into our master plan that Plattekill is not the place to be putting something like that in. It's just environmentally impossible to put something in there and feel that it's safe. Something also to piggyback on what he said is we have also been presented with battery storage facilities, and that's kind of, I just think that that's going to keep on growing. And I don't know if those are things that, since we are such an environmentally sensitive community, that we can put in our comprehensive plan, but those are not the things that we feel fit in our community.
Okay.
And if you look at our codes, it even specifies the Hartel.
Yes,
It's in our codes right now
And that's surrounding areas.
that no development would be there.
Is that the blue?
In our code book, it's in our code book.
Yeah, there's
Those blue circular ones in the
yeah, I don't have color on my
at the top, the northern part of it.
That's the Superfund. The Superfund says it's along the Woodsdale, right?
Yeah. So up here, the blue. The one,
Yeah.
2, 3.
And that exists in our code.
Yeah.
The problem is that wasn't looked at in a sense with our code. It was looked at in all sense of necessity to identify those areas.
You're talking about where closer to the water.
Is there something we can do with expanding natural resource protection that would just allow some,
Yeah.
and, because the water is clearly a natural resource. And, I mean, with the battery storage, and we should be able to limit that in the code as well. And
Yes.
there were meetings held on that. A lot of people came out to them, and everybody's against it.
Battery storage.
Yeah, I mean, there were town meetings held on it. Whether they were town sanctioned meetings, but their meetings have been held.
Battery storage, I think we do want to address. We keep bringing it up, but we haven't figured out how we want to address it.
So I will tell the folks that don't know, is the company that wanted to put that battery storage in that area on off of Camp Sunset Road is actually pulled the idea from the maps from the planning board basically to proceed with that. The town board right now is in the process of we are having a moratorium written up, and we will be presenting that in October. And our hopes and desire is to look at our codes in the town and our laws in the town and define where they can and cannot be. And I think it's just a sign of the times. It's one of those things where we're pushing for green energy. We're pushing so fast and so hard that we need the time to sit down and look at that. And that's something that we have been looking at. James, I would say probably 3-4 months before they even presented that project.
At least.
So we had put together the board, put together a committee, and basically they hit the ground running, and they were looking at other problems that had developed in the past. In Warwick, there was 2 issues down there. There was a bunch of issues in Yonkers, down to New York City, and different areas. And one of the things that really caught our attention is we heard that fire suppression, the training for fire suppression was one word, and it doesn't sit easy with many who's called a retreat. So I didn't quite
I was thinking
understand.
run.
No, well,
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it is.
sense. So the committee was formed. That is something we're looking at as a town board, and hopefully we'll get some kind of answer to that as we proceed forward. But that's to me, that's not going to be the last applicant or possible applicant that comes our way. It's a sign of the times.
So, okay. So for the dumps, I'm just, I guess, first I'm just surprised. I thought if it's on an aquifer, that has to go through a whole
Well, it would still have to
regulatory thing.
Yeah.
That sounds like it shouldn't be allowed, but we could have it in here. I'd have to look at the zoning code also, but we could incorporate restricting dumps in the town if it's not already. Landfills, yeah. I think we should incorporate the battery storage, maybe in the economic development section, kind of under the area where we're delineating the zone, talking about zoning code issues.
Right, and where we're talking, we're also talking about the renewable energy, considering renewable energy and how the town wants to implement that and allow that. I was talking about it in solar panels, the battery storage goes along with the solar panels.
Okay. Yeah. It kind of crosses topics.
And the fact that it's consistent with the vision of the town, we have having a volunteer fire department.
Okay.
Shouldn't you add any other type of hazardous material storages?
Yeah.
Batteries aren't the only things that cause problems.
Yeah, we could just use that term and then say such as batteries.
Yeah, basically all particular.
And there's a chemical warehouse on South Ohioville Road. Some kind of loopholes, but it's right on our border.
Okay. Okay. More things to consider putting into here. So that's for infrastructure. The last one we have is community character goals. So maintain the community's character by preserving the town's scenic views, architectural forms, cultural and historic resources. There's many historic resources in Plattekill. And we list a lot of them here. The one change I did make was under C 3.1. It was kind of worded, it's about conservation and expanding the protection of natural resources through acquiring parcels to conserve. It was kind of worded in a way that the town would buy this land, but I thought it might be framed better is if we, kind of similar to the library, so expand the protection of natural resources and open spaces by maintaining a positive partnership with conservation organizations who acquire and conserve land for preservation. If that sounds better than putting it on the town just to buy the land.
There is a preservation, I don't remember what the actual name of it is, but there's a lot of communities now that are starting. And basically what they're doing is they're adding it to their annual taxes, so to speak. It's very small, it's like half a cent or whatever. You can actually tailor it to the community. But I'd like to look into that. I actually think a couple of the communities that are adjacent to us have that.
Yeah.
And what that does is it actually allows a community to acquire land, sensitive land. And it's not to go out and buy every piece of land because you don't want to take every piece of land and offer them that. But, just using the property, the Hertel landfill, Camp Sunset area, those properties as an example, it allows the towns to, and it's something conservation, but it allows the towns to actually borrow to do something like that. It gives them granting opportunities that they would not have otherwise.
Okay.
Open Space Institute, through the DEC, through a lot of other Hudson River different organizations.
If you, I can check too, but if you figure out what that
I will
program
call
is,
tomorrow and find out what that actually is. I actually have some notes that I've taken also, but I'd rather talk to the gentleman once again.
and yeah, we can include that in that same action for the town side of it.
Then it makes it something that we would look into in the future.
Yeah.
And also, however we draft this, I don't think we want to foreclose the idea of the town doing that.
Yeah, and that could be kind of along with that same action. If there's this program the town can kind of enter into, we could include that in that same C3 3.1. So that was the only addition I had for this goal. Actually, check the last page. Yeah. The only other thing would be this would be a good section for pictures of farms or scenic pictures of the town, historic sites, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was it for. That's all I had for the actions section. Goals, objectives, and actions. So section 5 is next steps, and that should be section 6. So the other thing I'm going to include in this is an implementation table, which lists as a table all the actions, and then also lists who would be the responsible party for implementing them, whether it's the town, whether it's a conservation organization, code enforcement, if there's any community organizations, the Historic Society, and then also we could do cost estimates for certain ones, and then funding sources for specific projects, what type of programs could potentially fund some of these projects. So that's the other part of this that we're going to include is the implementation table. So in the next week and a half, hopefully by next Friday, if you guys send me any other comments you have, revisions, I'll send out an email next Wednesday as just a reminder to try to get these back to me if you have anything by that Friday. And then that's pretty much what's all going to be going into the draft plan for the open house. Do you guys have any other questions about the draft plan? Okay. The open house and public hearing number 1.
And publicizing these things.
Yes.
We want more than 15 people.
Okay. Well, we have to publicize it. We did post everything on, or one of you guys posted
It's on
everything
our
town.
Facebook page, it's on our Facebook page, it's in the newspaper, we can access our meetings, and it's also on our website.
Can we put it on the board?
on the board outside?
Absolutely. And also, all the materials are on the website now too.
No, that's all.
Yeah. So the open house and public hearing happen at the same time. I would suggest actually having it here.
So that happens at the same time.
Yes.
So normally we like to do our public hearings during our town board meetings.
But this is for the committee public hearing.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. This is a public hearing for you
So we
guys.
can have a public hearing during a committee meeting.
Correct. Yeah.
Perfect.
So we'll do the open house first. So we can do it the same as the public workshop. You can give a presentation, have people hold questions to the end, and and then do the open house.
I like it when they go through this. It's fun.
Have the open house so people can go around and leave comments. Then we'll have a resolution for you. I'll write up a resolution for you guys to basically recommend the draft plan to the town board upon edits from received during the open house. You'll have the public hearing.
But isn't that at the public hearing too?
So there's two public hearings.
Right.
Committee public hearing, town public hearing. The committee public hearing is the same time as the open house. Same night.
So the public hearing number 2 and adoption is exactly what?
That's the town board will do that.
Okay.
So we first start with, the committee, you guys, will do public hearing number 1 to recommend the plan to the town board. And then in between that time, so we'll just jump down here. So that's where you'll do that. We'll have to figure out a date. In between that time, I'll fill out the seeker forms and send the draft plan to the county for their review. They'll send back their comments. We can choose to incorporate them or not. And
The county was set the planning department.
Yes. Yeah.
And are we subject to GML the way some other municipalities are, where the county makes some recommendations and then we have to, like, if we disagree with any of them, we have to have a supermajority to override. Is there anything like that?
No.
Okay.
It's just, they're just,
These are recommendations, but we're not obligated to stay by them.
yeah, sometimes they have good recommendations or something to consider. But yeah, we're not required to incorporate or tell them why we're not incorporating them. And then we'll go on to, then it'll go to the town board for whenever their meeting is, and hopefully December.
I can't see that. Do you have any anticipated date for the first public hearing for us?
So,
At the next meeting?
I was picking one of these for the open house and public hearing, number 1, for the committee. So,
I will say that probably you and I would have to talk about that because we have budget meetings.
we can do November, or early November was the other option. I didn't put those dates up here, but, let's see here. Calendar pop up here.
I think this room has a pretty aggressive schedule for the month of October, so
So November 6th or 13th, or that's the first 2 Wednesdays.
potentially the second Wednesday would work better.
Yeah. So November 13th. So October, no good.
I'm not going to say that it's no good, but I would like to check the calendar.
Okay.
I was told today that we have some court proceedings that are going to happen in here, and there is some other boards that meet. So I will have to get in front of my calendar and talk to the other folks and check their calendars. I'll let you know.
We could do the Plattekill Fire Department again also as an option. It just felt like since it was also a public hearing, it would
Yeah, this is also more central.
and more central, yeah.
All right, so if you would like, I will do that tomorrow. You can give me a call tomorrow afternoon, or I can call you either way, and we can come up with some dates and let the folks know and get that advertised.
Okay. So the other ones are, I think, the second one. Okay. So, all right. So figure that out.
What is the second? Let's see. Oops, second, third, fourth, Wednesday of the month.
So there's 5
23rd of October?
Wednesdays.
I believe that date is possibly available on the 23rd.
Of October.
So,
Okay. Well, yeah, we could
potentially put it in the 23rd, and I will let you know.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, well,
And change the color.
and pictures. Send me pictures too. So I'm giving you guys till October 4th to give me comments. That's next Friday. And then we got that. Seeker. Okay. And then public hearing number 2 would be sometime in December, which would be the town board. So you guys are kind of essentially, well, you'll have next month. You'll be back next month. One more meeting. Yeah, so I'll follow up with you next Wednesday. And that does it.
I'm assuming that it's 6:30.
Yeah, it's like at the 6:30. I almost made it earlier this week. But, all right, well, thank you guys for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
I'll reach out to Cindy. Because I'm sure she can send comments too. I don't think I have any other copies of the plan for you guys, though. But, all right.
I think 12.
Thank you guys.
All right, thank you so much.
So.